Hello and welcome to another episode of Glory of Golden State Gaming. I'm your host, Swamp Swimmer, and with me, as always, the lowest to my Clark, Vespacian.
Keep them coming, man. Hey, everybody. Good to see ya. Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year, everyone. So quick little side subject. If everyone has noticed, I have a brand new microphone. See it right there? And hopefully this will fix all. We had some sound problems with some previous videos. Hopefully this will be all set up now. Please let me know on the comments if it's not. And also please hit that subscribe button. But since I got the new microphone, I thought for our little chat before the bat rep, we talk about my setup that I do the recording with, because I've gotten a few comments of like, hey, what do you use to do this? So I thought I'd go over it real quick. Let's see here.
For while you're getting that set up, for anybody that was wondering, this is all of this is Swamp Swimmer. I just show up and talk. So he's the brains behind this.
Oh, there we go. There we go. I thought I'd take a picture of my setup. This is my setup at my house.
Nice.
So I'm running this on a laptop. The laptop on the right is a Legion gaming laptop, and the laptop on the left is my work laptop. First off, the new microphone I got is an Elgato Wave 3. It's a pretty... I'm extremely happy with it. I've done a bunch of tests. It's really good. For my camera, I'm using an old GoPro. If you have a GoPro hanging around the house, it's evidently a great web camera. And then this rack in the back I bought off of Amazon, and it holds the two laptops and the travel monitor that I happen to have laying around, and this ring light came with it. It's pretty cool. The desk is on wheels. I bought it off of Amazon for like $100. Wasn't crazy. And the last thing I wanted to mention was what the program I use to make the videos with, like, you know, our sliding pictures of our face that go across the screen. I use a program called OBS. It's a free program. Most streamers use it. It's an open source program with a bunch of add-ons you can add into it to make it do cool things and have effects and sounds and all sorts of good stuff. If you're interested in doing that, all I'd suggest is type into YouTube streaming setup with OBS, and it's completely customizable, and I spent a few weeks going deep into it and trying to get the setup that I like. Yeah, so hey, if you have any questions about how I do this, or if you have any recommendations even more, drop it in the comments. And that's all I got. Was that an interesting intro? I don't know. But let's...
I thought so. My brother-in-law recently pointed him to the channel. He doesn't play 9th Age, but he just wanted to kind of check it out. And he said that he thought that it, you know, like the setup looked very pro, and he was impressed. So I'm passing the kudos along to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, let's get into the battle report. I'm totally lost in my train of thought here. So
shake on some cobwebs. It's a new year.
Yeah. So in December, I ran the North American Team Championships here in San Francisco, and we are going to get into your games, because you were on a team in the tournament. You know, we're going to go over Vespacian's list. Why is this not working? Hold on 1 second. There we go. We're gonna go over Vespacian's list. If you're interested in looking up at the list of his teammates, go ahead and click the link. Let's see if I can get my finger right here. I'm gonna put a link right there that you can click to go to our list review video. But in round one, you got paired into Neil Hamilton, who is a great player. He has crushed me more than a few times. How do you...
Yeah.
So give me a little bit about the pairing process, if you remember.
Yeah, so I was on team That's a Lot of Beef, which was a holdover of... Initially, we wanted to theme having monsters in all of our lists, and then fast forward 6 months to actually when we actually submitted our list, we forgot about that, and not everybody had monsters, but funny team name. And we were the random draw for first round into Neil's team, which I think also had an equally funny name, which I think was something dumb eventually.
Yeah.
So they didn't have a good name, I guess, when they submitted. And the pairing process, it's 5-man teams, and so I really like 5-man because it allows you the sort of traditional like ETC pairing process, but a little bit more control with only the 2 rounds of pairing rather than the multiple kind of later rounds that can get a bit random. And so, we, to be honest with you, felt like we got out paired on this one, which is funny because it's the one that we had the most time to spend, and in advance, kind of preparing. But basically, we felt like we kind of midstream kind of changed our approach on the second set of drops and got a bit countered there, which is a shame. So we went into the actual games feeling like we had to claw our way back. And I've played Neil a couple of times. Going into this game, Neil and I were 1-1. So this was a good tiebreaker. So yeah, looking forward to this. I think on paper I had this rated as a green, and which means sort of a smallish to medium win. So yeah, so let's get into this and I can talk about my list. There we go. So kind of went back and forth. Team tournaments are interesting because you have the opportunity to kind of skew your lists a bit more than they would typically for a singles.
Yeah, for sure.
At the end of the day, I kind of just ended up taking my zoo list and making some tweaks to it. So I'll walk you through from the top. So High Prince on an Ancient Dragon, so the big boy with the Crown of the Wizard King and Obsidian Rock for the extra spell and also the extra distance on the Wizard.
Aaron, don't downsell it. It's the Ancient Dragon. It's awesome. I love seeing the Ancient Dragon on the table. It's such a centerpiece to an army. It's awesome.
No, it's a fun one. When I don't go to a travel tournament, I always try to bring that model out because I just love it so much. So got him with the Crown of the Wizard King to help boost the range on the Divination Master that you see there. I've got a Massive Kranich Tower BSB. Of course, this was before the recent round of nerfing that this model took. 30 Seaguard, Standard Bearer, their icon, so that I can get them up to MR3. Once again, also before the recent nerfing to the large Seaguard bricks. 20 Citizen Spears, 5 Reavers for a little chaff, fill out core. Medium-sized unit of Lion Guard with Banner of Becalming, everybody's favorite item. A Great Eagle just for chaffing duty. 15 Queen's Guard, Spears and Musician, and then 3 Reapers. So pretty much maxed out, or pretty close to maxed out on shooting.
Yeah, it's just
combined with from the Ancient Dragon.
Yeah, it's definitely a maxed out shooting list Highborn Elves plus a dragon plus a Lion Guard unit, basically.
Yeah, and I've been getting a lot of reps in with this list, so I knew I was feeling comfortable with it. Kind of understood the matchups, all that kind of jazz. So yeah, I was excited, and the Ancient Dragon is nice if you can pair for it, and not come up against some of the hard counters. Then it's you can usually have a field day. So yeah, I was looking forward to seeing how the big boy does on this one.
And again, if you're interested in the rest of That's a Lot of Beef's team lists, go to the list review. I'm going to put the link right above my head. I'm going to try to put it there, but we'll see if it works. But let's move on to Neil's list. Neil was right in the Dread Elves. You can go through it if you want.
Yeah, so he's got a Wizard Outcast, Warlock Outcast on Witchcraft, 2 Binding Scrolls, and then an Adept on Evocation with Obsidian Rock, and then he's got a pretty, sort of, I would guess, support style, officer for the Discipline 10 there as his general, a Silent Assassin. 37 Celestian Spears, so with Rending Banner, so big beefy core unit, Raiding Party, which is kind of flexible, shooty bunker, auxiliaries, sort of similar role, but scores. He split his Gorgons up. You can take a max of 3, but he split them up into 2 and 1. I guess one is chaff and one is kind of a support unit. 2 packs of Obsidian Guard, 10 Judicators, the Fear causing Channel 3 Effigy of Dread.
Yep.
A unit of Shadow Riders with guns, and 2 Raptor Chariots with halberds, and a Miss Leviathan, which is cool. I hadn't actually faced a Miss Leviathan before, and it actually ended up having a pretty big impact on this game. So yeah, it's a go ahead.
This is a strong list. I've said it before that the Celexian Spears, they're such a good core piece, and Dread Elves have such great options to support those units. Man, it's such a good unit. It's so hard to face. How did he run his warlocks? Where did he put those?
So he, if I recall correctly, he started them out, at least one of them in the raiding party. You know, with light troops, that thing can, you know, bounce around pretty easily, and there's a lot of things that he was focusing on in terms of kind of bubbles, right? So he used his Obsidian Guard to provide that panic reroll bubble out on the flanks, and he was really focusing on having his big master with the hereditary to be able to cover a big part of his line. So having that flexible light troops, like really mobile bunker, was something he took big advantage of in this. Yeah,
that's a good list. I faced something like this in a previous tournament. I think it was Wichita. I can't remember.
Yeah,
I underestimated those spears. Whew, I'm still hurting from it. But all right, well, let's get into the game here. This is marked as deployment in Vanguard.
Yeah, so so I mentioned the Miss Leviathan ended up having a kind of a big impact because we tied on the roll for choosing first turn, and so he got to choose, which I didn't realize that was how it worked. I thought that he could that it made it give him a +1 or something like the Highborn Elf one, but he gets to choose. So he unsurprisingly decided to be able to drop first, right? So that he could go first, which with Dread Elves in this kind of a list matchup makes a lot of sense. So let's see, I chose the bottom, and I think the main reason I did that was I wanted to have that hill. I thought that would be helpful
over here. Yeah.
And I also wanted to prevent him. I wanted to use that impassable over on the right hand side, that kind of cave looking thing, to break up his advance on one of the spoils, which would let me kind of focus on the hill and have a nice strong kind of area on the right hand side. And so he unsurprisingly, it was counter thrust. So, you know, big advantage for him to both be able to drop first and go first, because he had his Shadow Riders spread out in the center there, pushing me back deep.
Yeah.
So that was a big advantage for him. But I can walk you through our deployment. So my right to left, you can see over there we've got a unit of that's where my Reavers are. And then we've got the spears kind of towed up on the hill there. Queen's Guard on the back of the hill. Sea Guard with both the characters in the front of the hill. And then not both the characters, just the BSB. The Lion Guard over there has the Divination Wizard. You can kind of see the yellow hair up front. And then the 3 bolt throwers kind of spread in the back, more than 6 inches apart. Great Eagle was my first drop out on the front there, which is a shame because it basically meant I knew I was going to lose him. And then the Ancient Dragon zoning the entire left, essentially. And then Neil will go from my right to my left again. So he had his 2 Gorgons there, unit of Obsidian Guard, his Effigy of Dread, his Miss Leviathan, which was this cool, like, gigantic wolf with some handlers. It's kind of a neat model. Yeah, and then his vanguarded up Shadow Riders in the front there. The big spear unit, which had the baby outcast, not the master, but the adept, was in there, and then behind it was the big outcast, the general, in that repeater crossbow unit. And then you can see he did something smart here, spreading his Obsidian Guard unit out wide, to give that 6-inch reroll panic bubble kind of basically across his entire line.
Yeah.
And then he's got his other Medusa in front of the Obsidian Guard there, the single, the auxiliaries, the Judicators, and then the 2 Raptor Chariots.
Gotcha.
He dropped first, remember, and I only had a couple of drops down. So he basically spread to play all 3 objectives, and then sort of see how I responded. So yeah, I think pretty good flexible deployment from Neil, and then this was kind of my counter deploy. So
Gotcha. Yeah, I think your shooting's got to go into the spear unit, because the spear unit can take easily your lion guard. I'm in my mind.
Yeah, it's spears and elves always have an interesting interaction, right? Because it's sort of like that Spider-Man gif, right? The 2 Spider-Mans pointing at each other. Neither one wants to charge, right? You. And then I have the advantage because my spear unit, the Sea Guard, has guns, right? So I'm happy to sit there and wait for him to charge, right?
Yeah.
So it's honestly that one matchup is why I gave this a green, because I felt like I could win that center objective as a result of that. But we'll see how we play it out.
Okay. Next image.
Oh yeah, here's the 1700 spells. I don't know that it's really worth going through this. Basically, he took all the anti-gun line spells, right? He took Effigy, he took the Hereditary, and then with the 2 binding scrolls, pretty effective against my list. His magic phase was really nasty.
Yeah.
And then he took some, I think, just basically reroll the wound spells to try to deal with the dragon, essentially. And then on my side, I took at least Unerring Strike, Stars Align, and probably Know Thy Enemy for a combat buff option.
Exactly.
And the Hereditary. And then on the Master of the Cranic Tower, I'm pretty sure I did Healing Waters, Raven's Wing, and Altered Sight.
Yep.
And then Crown got in its the beginning of what will become a trend, an enormously useless spell, Spectral Blades, against a Res 3 army. So yes.
All right. Let's see here. This is marked as top of 1 movement.
Yeah, so full court press, pretty much. He puts the Obsidian Guard on the right-hand side up onto the objective. He pushes his spears basically straight forward. He respects the Ancient Dragon on the left with quite a wide zone. Although I think he gave me like a 12 onto the auxiliaries, which my assumption was just that he was going to flee that. Try to pull the dragon out. He pushes up, which I think was a little bit of a mistake, although I wouldn't have really charged with the Sea Guard, but I probably could have had the Lion's angle a little better so that he couldn't get forward with the Shadow Riders there, but he's basically coming after the Bolt Thrower. So, and everything else kind of shuffled around. He brought over his lone Medusa. You can see it. He pulled it way over to come in, sort of chaffing duties in the center and out of sight, but you can kind of see the edge of their movement tray on the right hand side is the other 2 Medusa.
Oh, right here, I see. Okay.
Yep.
Next photo. This is marked as top of 2.
Yeah, so we missed my movement here. So basically in response to him, I did a few things. I moved my spears over onto the hill, and was, basically I wanted to create that weird matchup for the Obsidian Guard. Obsidian Guard do strike Simo with Elven Spears when they charge, but I had a cover volley, all those kind of things. I turned the Queen's Guard so that they could take care of those Gorgons, because I didn't like the idea of the Obsidian Guard and the Gorgons getting into the spears. And then Sea Guard just kind of shuffled to shoot at some things. Ancient Dragon pulled over and basically replaced
Yeah.
his zoning with the Lion Guard, right? Because I wanted to bring the Ancient around to work on the center, essentially. And basically, with his tentative turn 1 movement with those Raptor Chariots, I felt like the Ancient Dragon had kind of done his job. So I pulled the Div Mage out of the Lions and back into the Sea Guard to safety and just moved the Lions around. You can see basically what I shot at, because this is at the end of his movement. So I shot at and panicked the Shadow Riders who fled. You can see them now next to his spears there, kind of in between the big spear unit.
Oh,
those
here,
are the
here.
dead ones.
Here.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So I did manage to panic them, which was some good luck. I also did, I think I killed 1 Medusa with the Queen's Guard, which is a little bit of an underperformance on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
I did a little bit of work on the auxiliaries on the left-hand side with my bolt throwers. But you can see one thing that did happen was I had to, because I didn't want to let Twisted Effigy off, I ended up having to let off the Hereditary. Neil had incredible luck in his magic phases the entire game. I don't think he failed a single spell. And so he got off the Hereditary. Not to say that, I mean, he was doing the right dice choices, but obviously sometimes you hope for some luck there.
Yeah, you hope for 1 or 2 misses, you know?
Yeah, and he just didn't have that. So he got the Hereditary off, which you can see really, you know, started to hurt my bolt throwers there, because those wounds are all from the Hereditary. And I think he might have even taken off a Sea Guard or 2, a couple of Sea Guard, it looks like. But overall, I wasn't too unhappy with this result. So now he's moved, and his Obsidian Guard and his Medusas charge my spears on the right-hand side. I cover volley with the Sea Guard and wipe out the Obsidian Guard.
Oh, wow!
And I think I must have shot at them with something as well.
It
wasn't just the Sea Guard that did it.
That was a 10-man unit, so 10 wounds.
No, I think like one of the bolt throwers over on the left-hand side also shot at that Obsidian Guard unit, so it was already depleted down to like 6 or 7. But I you know, and I think I had stars line up on the Sea Guard.
Yeah.
So I finished them off. I also, this is turn 1, and we'll keep counting this, but turn 1, stars align Sea Guard into those spears in the center, as you rightly pointed out. Neil rolled something like 6 5-up saves out of 10 wounds, something crazy like that. This will start to matter later in the game. So just real underperformance there. So I finish off the Obsidian Guard, and the Medusa comes in, the single remaining Medusa comes into the spears solo, which I was happy about. He brings the Miss Leviathan and the single Medusa into the Reavers that I had brought up there to chaff his spears. You remember the spears were facing towards my Sea Guard, right? So I brought them up to chaff, and they both go in. The Miss Leviathan does have an overrun into my spears.
Into your front or your flank?
It's front.
Okay.
Yeah, and then he moves up his chariots and his auxiliaries on the left-hand side, and yeah, that's about it. He does not rally his Shadow Riders, so that was a little bit of luck, because that was, I think, a Discipline 10 check that he failed.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that was that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
this is marked as
sorry.
end of 2.
Because Neil and I were pairing, and because everybody was kind of getting set up and stuff like that, we got a slow start to this game. So I missed a couple of pictures, but this is end of 2, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so if you go back to the last picture, I can kind of give you a better indication of what happened here. So what happens is the Miss Leviathan overruns into the spears. It kills the Reavers and overruns into the spears. The spears finish off the Medusa, and the Miss Leviathan and the Medusa do a decent amount of damage, but don't break the spears. I stick.
Okay.
His other Medusa overruns, and it ends up setting up a nice. It doesn't make it into the Sea Guard. It's kind of drifting where that spell card is.
Yeah.
Essentially, and it sets up a nice little overrun where the Ancient Dragon on like a 7 on the dice charge can hit that Medusa that can't flee and then overrun into the Mist Leviathan, essentially wiping the entire right-hand side of the board off for him. And so I take that charge and I make it. And that is exactly what ends up happening. I overrun, I kill the Mist Leviathan, right? And now the Ancient Dragon is set up there.
That's nice.
I turn, yeah, really nice. I turn the entire gun line around because now there's nothing on the right-hand side. Essentially, everything shoots at the spear block, and so let me try to remember what happens here. He got another hereditary off, right? Which, because of the wounds that he'd already done to the right-hand side bolt throwers, that makes it so that I basically can't shoot them at anything in the bubble.
Oh God.
So those right-hand side, because they'll die basically automatically. So those right-hand side bolt throwers spend the rest of their life shooting single bolts at the chariots.
The chariots on the left-hand
side.
Yeah.
Because those are basically the only units out of the bubble, and I miss every single one or fail to wound every single one the rest of the game. Anyways, feast or famine with single
I'm going to say it right now,
bolts.
war machines are not worth it, period. They're too swingy. They're too swingy.
Everybody loves these things, but sometimes they just don't show up. So here's another phase where I put essentially everything I have into that spear block and take off maybe like, with the Sea Guard and the Queen's Guard, take off maybe another like 5 or 6.
Ooh.
This is, I think I get Altered Sight up or Stars Align one way, or I put a Unerring Strike, whatever. I put some magic into them to, as well, and all of that combined does very, very little. And although I'm really happy with how the right has shaped up,
yeah,
I'm starting to get really nervous because I was expecting by now that spear block would be basically done. And there's something the Sea Guard are actually out of line of sight of the spear block the way he's positioned it. So I was really happy with how this was all going, but I was starting to get very nervous about all the bolt throwers only having 1 wound left and that spear block not having taken nearly as many wounds as I thought it should have by now. So now
wait, so you're saying, I'm sorry, you're saying your Sea Guard are out of that block's line of sight?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
So it's a little bit confusing, but basically like the arc of sight just misses the Sea Guard. He can't see that unit. He basically doesn't have a charge with that unit right now.
All right, moving on. Blurry picture, but that's all right. We're at the top of 3 now.
Yeah, top of 3. So this is when things start falling apart a little bit. And I think this might be the last picture up, and I'm sorry about that. But let me explain to you. Yeah, my apologies. So this was weird because it was basically at this point where we realized in turn 3 that we maybe only had like 45 minutes left, which was not great because we got such a slow start. And so we started to really try to push, try to make as many turns as we could. So in this turn, Neil basically he moves the spear block over, and when he made that maneuver, I was like, this is amazing, because now kind of downside risk is I push the objective, because he has no scoring unit that can get to it in the next. This is his turn 3. He would have to then move on to it in turn 4 at the earliest, and then pick it up in turn 5, right? Which, so I was feeling really good about that maneuver. He kind of pushed up still a little bit tentatively with the Raptor chariots, and he moves up aggressively with the 2 shooting units, right? So he pushes up there, and then the sort of nightmare happens. In his shooting phase, he kills like just enough lions, like 3 or 4, to cause a panic check on them.
Oh no!
They are out of BSB range. They're not out of the dragon's range, right? So it's a 10, which I then fail.
Is it cold-blooded? No, it's not cold-blooded.
It's not. I fail it. They run off the board, and in so doing, they panic both Yes, so I failed a discipline 10 and then 2 discipline 8 leadership tests
Oh.
all in a row on those 2 bolt throwers. And that puts me in a really tough position. I think one way or the other, I think he also takes off one of those bolt throwers in that turn, and so that was a pretty rough turn. I lose, like circa 800 points, the calming banner, and essentially the left flank has collapsed. So now both of our flanks, his part of my right flank and my part.
You're doing a yin yang right now. It's just woo.
Yeah. So this is a really important picture, and it's a good thing to remember about getting the muscle memory back of playing on the tabletop. So you see where that spoil of war marker is in the center, right? So that Shadow Rider unit has rallied there, so it cannot move this turn, so it's stuck there. And I look at that and I do some measurements and I say to myself, there's no way that he can get on that token because the Shadow Rider unit has stopped within an inch of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
What I should have done is I should have just said that to Neil, right? And instead, because what ended up happening, and this is no detraction from Neil, he, in his movement phase, that spear unit ended up on that center token. And I wasn't paying attention. I think I was doing captain like duties. Somebody else was asking me a question about something. I don't think that he futzed with it, but when you're on the tabletop and you make some assumptions, you should just
I agree with that.
Right?
I agree with that.
Because I looked at that and I measured it and I thought that there was no way he could get on it, and then I come back and he's on it, right? And the reason why this is important is look at where that ancient dragon is. I could have easily parked the ancient dragon so that there was no way that anything could get on. And I had plenty of movement. There's really no risk. And so I contemplated that, but I was like, oh, I don't even have to, because essentially that Shadow Rider unit is preventing anybody from taking it. And that ultimately, if I had just said that and we'd figured that out, then I wouldn't have lost the objective, which I ultimately do. So he moves the spears over onto that objective, picks it up in turn 5, winning him the objective. And that, there was some decision making that ended up happening, but ultimately, that is what kind of ended up deciding it. I put another, like 4 rounds of shooting into those spears, and there's still like 15 of them left at the end of the game, which is mind-boggling to me. I think I ran the math right after the game, and I should have killed like 60 spears instead of like 20. But it's dice, right? So obviously that would have made a big difference. But losing the objective was the biggest. So,
and it ends up with a 15-5 to him.
Yeah.
That was actually pretty good. That was a really interesting game.
I was a couple mistakes I think I made. Obviously, I think I had the movement and could have gotten those lions within BSB range if I'd been a little bit smarter about it, because that's obviously a big swing. I think that I underestimated the witchcraft, twisted effigy and hereditary combo. That hereditary, it's like somebody designed a spell to kill elven bolt throwers. I mean, he every time I shot them into the bubble, he did 3 wounds.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
So so that was eye-opening to me. I hadn't seen it be quite that effective before, and I think that's all about him managing that 18-inch bubble, right, so that it covers the majority of his force. And I think I just wish that my shooting had done better against the spear block, because I think at this point of the game, if that spear block is down to where it should be, I think I could just march the Sea Guard up and
take it off.
But anyways, good game. Neil's always a good opponent, and a little disappointed with this outcome, but we've got 4 more games to go. So
long term. And how did the team end up? I think you won overall.
We did, yeah. So fortunately, one of our other team members who had an orange ended up getting some good luck and played well and got a big win off of an orange matchup, which helped balance mine. And I think we ended up these are 5-man teams, so max score of 100 with a cap of
Mhm.
65, and I think we ended up with a 59, if I recall.
It's not bad. Not bad at all.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for the game.
Thanks.
If you're still watching, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next battle report.
Bye, everybody.